welcome welcome back to the channel. We are going to be looking at a chess game. This one, this is a wild one. All right, this was played about 10 minutes ago, which I thought this thing was so funny. I thought this was amazing. This is played between a 1697 as white and a 1695 as black. Now let's just get right into it, huh? These players on chess.com would probably be around 1200, maybe lower, maybe higher. Below 2000, lead chess ratings are very inflated, yes. But when it's above 2000, the ratings are very accurate, actually. So we have a French. I am French, which is probably why I'm covering this game. We have an exchange French. The exchange French is basically just taking the pawn. There's not really too much to say about that. We got d4. We have knight f6. The more principled way. Recently, there has been some c5, c4 stuff by black, which it just puts white under some pretty big pressure because you don't really get the usual attacking of the pawn chain in the exchange French because there's stuff like this defending the pawn in the first place. But we have a Monte Carlo-esque position with c4. Black takes it. This isn't really what you're supposed to do. You have to get this check to develop fast and castle. Otherwise, you might get attacked very early on, and in this game, this is exactly what happens as white completely hands the game to the move boop, because after king takes, there's this, and you take the bishop, but white castles, also good move. White just keeps on failing to see the move bishop f7, and the fork here. In the Monte Carlo variation, you almost in any Monte Carlo-esque position, you almost never really want to put your bishop here unless some pieces are traded off. You want the bishop check, you want the knight out, you want this knight out, maybe to c6, most likely in these kinds of positions. And if you're not going to do that, you need to castle as fast as possible, and you need to save the movement of the rook for when this bishop's threat is neutralized. We have queen b3, a fork of the pawns. You hit this, you've missed the tactic though. Black castles, not really the best move. Because of this, black really had to just play. Black needed to have played safer. And as a French player, it's kind of surprising that black didn't play safer than they did. Now, what's going on in this position? White is better. White is not winning because white is up a pawn, but that pawn is an isolated queen's pawn, which it does counterbalance slightly. And we have this very nice move, c5, trying to get some activity. And as you can see, black is already slightly better because of how much activity they have just enabled themselves, and especially against white's king, which will become a recurring theme later on. White goes here again. You're just overextending. You're allowing your pieces to be disconnected. You're allowing things to move like knight e5, hitting your bishop, which you just stopped defending, and also hitting c6, which would be a fork of this and this. And once you take that, you have f3. So that is why knight e5 is very much winning. White goes here. Yeah, I forgot about that. h6, and in the face of danger, in the face of your bishop getting slapped, you decide to go danger levels on a piece where the attacked piece can take the knight. The knight can now move, so you just completely threw. And queen a3 is just something else. I have no idea what the thought process was in that. You can just take this. There are 3 attackers versus 2 defenders, and another one of what black's pieces is already handing. Black needs white needs to count and just chill. White spent White spent 15 seconds on queen a3. This is not that hard to calculate. That you could just take a free bishop. So black takes, good move. That piece was hanging, and you are very much getting overextended and very tangled up. White thinks that, oh my god, this knight is under attack. So if I take with the pawn, I knock this guy out. Unfortunately, no, you don't, because it can remove the final defender, and if you take this, queen comes in over here, picks up the rook, most likely with check, because if you try to get away, there's like knight here, and you might even get mated. So black just gives it up and takes the knight and tries to get the equal material back. White gets a check, good move. Now, I have no idea what the thought process was here. Obviously, you need to make more threats. Maybe hit this pawn, maybe take a free pawn, maybe. You just need to do something in this position other than backing off. Because the moment you back off, you allow white's defenders in. This wasn't the best way to do it. You needed to get this queen into the action, but it was fine. I'm not going to fault them for queen e5, trying to keep eyes on this defended piece. This was much better because it threatened mate, and also releases the queen's tension on the knight for the knight to be able to contribute to the game more. White goes here. This just hands a pawn, of which was not taken, and this move, this actually disconnects the queen's defense from this. The reason why this is so good is because it's just like a mating attack. There's too many attackers versus so little defenders. White misses that, and now white can take a free knight, which white does not do. This is also a free knight because you are threatening some stuff on the queen here with some potential of this if the bishop ever moves away. So yeah, that did not happen. We have knight c3, hanging some attacking moves. We go here. The knight was under attack. I'm not going to fault them for this. Black is still better. But knight e2, I mean, it's hard to find this to defend that, but I would have at least expected some other move to defend the pawn here, or maybe try to get the queen into the action somehow. I wouldn't even fault them for taking this, because that actually does defend that. But we have knight e2. This is obviously a horrible mistake because of knight takes. And for some inexcusable reason, white sacks the knight in the worst possible way, and now they are losing. It's +2 after queen takes. Respect for continuing the attack and not resigning by black. And king f3 is just so ballsy that there is actually no threat against the king. It is so ballsy. By the way, the g-pawn is pinned, and you can just take that as a free full bishop. Instead, white goes here, still winning, trying to trade off attacking pieces. Honestly, not faulting them for not seeing that. Black gives a check, good move, defending the bishop with a tempo. White blocks with the queen, good move as well. I would have liked to see black try to keep the queens on the board to hit this rook and maybe trade on your own terms. Instead, they take the queen, which is bad because you're already down material. This bishop is not under attack because you have back rank mate, which is why the engine likes this move, going after the pawn immediately. White goes back, mistake. And it is a mistake because of how many pawns black has. Black has 2 extra pawns, and one of them is completely passed on the outside of the board. So if everything gets traded off, and maybe white is left with a knight on the board, the knight might not be able to stop this pawn from going. That is why that is a mistake, and I completely justify that mistake. We get some moves. Black gets pushed back a little bit. White infiltrates. I would say take the knight here. Maybe not though. It just really anything other than this, because that hand's a fork. Black loses the rook. And yes, I would have not done that. I would try to. What I would try to do is try to make some kind of a fortress with this. It's very unfortunate that this is the same color square as the bishop here, so white can just sack the rook for the bishop and the pawn. Unfortunately, but that does not happen, and that becomes a later theme. This was a fork. That's just a clean winning of a piece. White did have around like 10, 15 seconds, or they got as low as like 2 seconds at one point. Black resigns. Honestly, I wouldn't have resigned here because after the way White played that game, I would not really trust White to realize that it's bishop same color. So that was a wild game. Hopefully, you guys learned something. Maybe about how to play against the c4 French with this early check and castling as fast as possible. Maybe you learned something from White to not be scared. And as Black, never go here when there's some heavy firepower about to land here. So yeah. Overall, White got the better of the Ooga Booganess. Black, this was the move that killed them, really. Not taking here was just tragic. The estimated rating for White was 1834. I don't really agree with that. I think it's slightly less. And estimated rating for Black is 1571 for Lichess ratings. For these, I agree. Yes, I agree with that one. That's definitely it. See ya. Subscribe if you want to see more Ooga Booga like this.